Welcome to the NSHSS Scholars Connect Podcast, where we inspire students to stand out, step up, and take action. I'm your host, Angelica Oliver, and today is a very special episode because it's our first episode and we have a very special guest, our co-founder, Jim Lewis. For more than 20 years, Jim has championed academic excellence, global community, and the belief that young people deserve recognition at every stage of their journey. In this conversation, we're taking you behind the scenes to explore how NSHSS began. We'll talk about the power of community, what students are facing in today's world, and how recognizing and supporting their talents can change the course of their lives. Let's get started. Hello, Jim.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Angelica.
That's so great to hear. Thank you so much for joining us on the NSHSS Scholars Connect podcast. I'm so excited to have our founder here, why we're all here, the reason we're all here. So I would love to hear a little bit about your story, how you met Klaus Nobel and how you envisioned NSHSS.
Oh, Angelica, it's great to be here and share some of my thoughts. A lifetime goes so quickly. It's exciting when you think about NSHSS and how I created the organization. And it probably reflects on my life and my life experiences. So growing up, my father worked for the Army Corps of Engineers. And he went to the University of Michigan through a scholarship. He was the first in his high school to go to college. But his work took us around the United States. So, Angelica, growing up, I started in Niagara Falls, New York. Then we moved to Florida. Then we moved to Kansas. And then from Kansas, we moved to New Jersey. And then from New Jersey, we moved to Atlanta.
You've been everywhere.
I was everywhere. But, when you think about, the new student, in a particular campus, I was always the one coming to a new community, not only in the neighborhood, but going to school. So when my dad would come home and say, we're moving, it would reflect, oh my gosh, I've just made friends and, I've been accepted into this small community that we live in and at school and at church. And now all of a sudden, we're uprooting and moving to another community. So what that did to me is I hated it at the time, but reflecting back on it, it really made me aware of different cultures and how people felt as an outsider coming into a community. So it sort of forced me growing up as a young adult to look at cultural differences and how to make friends. The difference, from New Jersey to Florida to Kansas to New Jersey to Atlanta, each one of those had their own sort of communities of character and values and communication styles. So it was exciting growing up in an environment of change and the ability to think through the value of what that did from a positive standpoint and how it reflected on me and my values moving forward. So the ability to start an honors organization for outstanding high school students to bring students together from different backgrounds and different experiences was the joy in my life, and the opportunity to have educational access for everyone. And when I met Mr. Klaus Nobel, the senior member of the Nobel Prize family, it was in the year 2000. And we talked about youth and empowering youth. And it was curious from his perspective, being the senior member of the Nobel Prize family, he understood recognition. He understood what does it take to be the best. And the ability for him to reflect on the Nobel recipients. And when he shared with me his concern where the recipients were older people, because when you get the Nobel Prizes, it's for a lifetime of work of something that's made an impact on mankind. Most of the individuals that received the Nobel Prizes received them in their 70s and 80s for work that they did earlier in their careers. So Mr. Nobel was sharing with me the struggle of recognizing these outstanding people, but later in life for something that they did. And his concern, too, is he said most of the Nobel laureates to date were white men. So we had a lot of things in common. And when we met in 2000, we shared these ideas over lunches and dinners and laughter and sort of concern about what can we do to make a difference on students' life, because the youth are so critical when you think about our planet. And Klaus would always say that the youth represented under 50% of the world's population, but they represented 100% of our future. And Klaus wanted to dedicate the last chapter, as he said, in his life to working with young people. So the ability to connect with Mr. Nobel and work closely with him for all those years was so outstanding. He was dedicated to helping young people believe in themselves, and he wanted to create future Nobel laureates. So the best way to do that is to create an honor society, to recognize outstanding young students and provide them access to education and scholarships, to provide them a framework of achievement. And it's okay and it's cool to be smart. How do you build that into an organization that could encourage those values and make people feel safe? And that was our vision in 2002. And I can't believe we're going to be 24 years old now. And I had the pleasure of working with Klaus up until he was 91.
Wow.
So can you imagine all those years together? And he became a friend, later became a mentor, and then became a father figure to me. So my father passed away earlier in life, and Klaus filled that void. And he was such an inspiration to me and all the NSHSS members. And he would love to travel to our events around the country and around the world and speak to the students and encourage them to be the best version of themselves. And he was an amazing person. So I was really fortunate to spend all those years with Mr. Nobel and learn from him and his experiences and, really laid the foundation for NSHSS.
Yes, I wish I would have been able to meet him. He seems amazing, and then also to have the impact that he has had, and also you have had in the world, and recognizing like scholar and the importance of that community and that recognition of students who are really making a difference in the world, no matter what background they come from. And I think that's so important to recognize.
No, absolutely. We're all unique. And when you think about Maya Angelou and, her wisdom that she passed on and her thought is, we're more alike than not alike. And that's true in what I believe and what Klaus believes. And, sort of the foundation for NSHSS is how do we recognize the world's best students in an honor society? Mr. Novell and I wanted to create something that was fresh, something that, an opportunity to provide recognition for outstanding students. And when we looked at what was available for students, some of them were a little narrowly focused and unfortunately maybe had a faculty committee that would select the honor students. And in that case, sometimes it's the same group of popular students being recognized. And when Mr. Nobel and I established NSHSS, we wanted to create an environment that was academically based. So if you had great grades, you should be able to be involved in an honors group, was our personal philosophy. So we wanted to create an environment to encourage students to participate and be recognized for their academics. And then once they were a member, create opportunities for them to develop leadership skills and exposure to other high achieving students. But we didn't want anything to be a barrier for students to be recognized and involved in NSHSS.
I feel like it's something that is needed because there are a lot of barriers that keep people from um, really recognizing, and I keep on saying that word, but recognition is a big part of how scholars' confidence goes up when they're recognized for all the hard work that they're doing.
Yeah, it's amazing how many students have very good grades but have never gotten that recognition
Yes.
and that pat on the back, that encouragement. I'm excited to meet a student and their parents and hear their stories around the world. These young students that have done so well, some of them are working after school and they don't have an opportunity to get involved in school activities or programs, but they may have a 3.8 or 3.9 or 4.0, and they're left out of those traditional honors opportunities that we saw. So creating NSHSS for students based on academics was our core principle in encouraging them to be involved and to be a part of a network of achievers like themselves, because a lot of honor students feel isolated. They're unsure, they're high achieving, they have great goals, but they may not have the confidence because they haven't like them. So the ability to develop a network of high achieving students with similar values, similar experiences, similar challenges, and share that in a safe environment is what Klaus and I wanted to create. And I'm proud, Angelica, to let you know that we have student members from 170 countries around the world.
Wow. With that global perspective, it really brings a lot to the table for NSHSS members because it's
Absolutely.
not just you're here in a silo.
No, and having Mr. Nobel as, a co-founder with his worldwide experience and exposure to challenges that the planet is facing, what a great role model for our student members to create an honors group that focuses on recognition with the tradition of the Nobel Prizes, but looking at the planet and how do we become a better unified world. When I grew up, I would be listening to John Lennon, for example, from the Beatles, and I loved his song "Imagine." And when you think about that, and bringing the people of the world together in peace, um, Mr. Nobel, the family, the recognition of how do you recognize the top students and encourage them to think about world betterment, to think about the planet, to think about Earth ethics. How can these young people achieve the dreams that they want to achieve, but to make our Earth a safer, saner place?
Yes. And with that global perspective, and then also, and not just being about grades, but being a better person. How can you contribute to the world in a more meaningful way? Um, because of course it's great to get good grades, like we all want that, but to take it a step further and bring that out into the world is really, really cool that NSHS has fosters that.
We believe in those strongly. And Klaus created something that he called the Seven Nobel Rights. And when you think about the Seven Nobel Rights, it's sort of our foundation as an organization. But you can find them on our website. But when he traveled to our events around the country and even speaking to NSHSS members around the world, he would always reference those rights. But when you think of like, the right thought, because everything generates from your thought, and how can you create change without thinking about change? But there's seven amazing rights that he published and talked about. The ability to make change where you could do it right now, right here, right, within your own communities, because so many people want to make a difference in their communities. And through the seven rights and through NSHSS, you can learn to explore different settings and have friends and networks of saying, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing something in my community, or I'm thinking about writing this, AP thesis on this particular topic. Can anyone share their experiences? And how can I create this wonderful program or project that will have an impact, not just on their grades, but have an impact in their communities?"
And for those who don't know what the exact seven rights are, I would love for you to tell them a little bit more about it and what the seven rights actually are.
They are the right thought, the right word, the right deed, right attitude, right livelihood, right here, and right now. So, they're sort of pillars of the correct behavior. When you think about listening and how important listening is in our communities, um, Klaus would say you have to be so careful with your right thought and communicating to others and listening to other people's perspectives on different challenging opportunities and challenges. But the ability to think about anything you say, if you say a wrong word or a wrong thought, Klaus would say not the strength of 100 elephants could bring it back. So when you think about the power of right thought, right deed, the ability to do the correct thing and express it, and the ability to listen to other people's perspective, when you think about challenges that we have in a global community, the more diverse thoughts that we receive and listen to will provide an opportunity to have an equitable solution to not only community problems, but global problems. And within NSHSS, we want to bring in different people from different backgrounds. We're not affiliated with any particular organization or religious organization. We're open to everyone. And we really feel like that the opportunity to bring students together, families together, and educators together with different views on life and life experiences, we can all learn from each other and create a peaceful environment and hopefully focus, as Klaus wanted, on Earth ethics. How do we protect Mother Earth and provide the assurances for future generations that we'll be able to enjoy everything that she has given us?
Yes, which is a great mission, and I think we all need to come together in order to do that. So is that why the broader definition of achievement and in all aspects, not just grades, was so important to both you and Mr. Nobel?
Absolutely. When you think about grades, it takes hard work and disciplines and goal setting. But, the whole evolution of us as human beings, like Angelica, what do you feel like, to be a human? Let me ask you this question. What is it like to be a human?
To be a human it feels like it's um it's bigger than just myself because I am just one person, but I don't often see it that way. So to be human is to be connected and to be with others because it's hard to be just by yourself.
No, the whole presence of humanity. And we all learn through our shared experiences, but we all make mistakes. We all learn from each other.
Yes.
We evolve as humans. Hopefully we are learning from the mistakes of the past. Um, and then the ability to have a vision for a world that, embraces people everywhere and encourages them to be the best version of themselves. Uh, Especially when you look at some of the challenges going on right now in the world. We all really need to think about the world as a community, like you had mentioned. Your vision of being a human, you're immediately tied into humanity.
Yeah.
And it's not just humanity. I know you grew up in Florida and then moved to Georgia and became a NSHSS member in high school. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
But your, ability to say, I'm not just a Floridian or I'm not someone from Georgia. I'm part of the human race. And how can I understand what it means to be a human and interact with everyone from around not only Florida or Georgia, not only the United States, but from around the world?
Yes. I just and it's so crazy how even at the beginning of NSHSS, we still have some of the same values going forward, even 20 plus years later. So just thinking about what students are facing, of course, is a whole different world from what it was 20 years ago. But there are underlying um, values that are, timeless. So when you think about 20 years, what are the biggest challenges and opportunities for students that you see?
Well, through NSHSS, Klaus and I wanted to focus on access to education. And what was true back then is even more significant now is the cost of college.
Yes.
So, I'm concerned about rising cost of college, but saying that through NSHSS, we want to focus on scholarships and how to help a student succeed in reaching their dreams. And our focus is not just on scholarships, but college admissions. How does a student think big, dream big, and not shortchange themselves into thinking that they must go to a small college within their own state, especially because of a financial problem? So the question is, if a student and a family can think, how can I get the best education from whatever my passion is? Let me think about some of the best universities in the United States or around the world. Let me apply to those particular institutions, get admitted, and then talk to the institution about how can I afford this? So a lot of the colleges and universities don't know of the financial situations of the students, but they may be blind to that, but they're looking for the best quality of students. So a lot of students, a lot of universities offer wonderful scholarships. And when you think about scholarships in the United States, over $1 billion a year is offered in scholarships and financial aid. And the unfortunate thing is a lot of this money is not used. So within NSHSS and other organizations that focus on scholarships, we want to encourage our members and all the students to look at scholarship opportunities and not let a financial burden or potential financial burden stop an individual from applying to some of the best universities.
Financial freedom is kind of hard to do
Mm.
nowadays. But when we look at scholarships and different avenues of paying for education, it's very important, like you said, to look in all avenues. And it's so cool that NSHSS has that opportunity for students to apply for scholarships, not just based off of, what they do academically, but we have different scholarships for everybody, whether you're into art, whether you're into volunteering, whether you're into STEM, like all of those things are represented in our scholarships. So finding every avenue, there is something out there for you, whether you are into one thing or another.
So we
Oops.
want to encourage not only NSHSS members, but students to really look at what what resources are available, either through NSHSS, our partners, uh,
Yes, we
you
have a
know,
lot of partners.
yeah, absolutely. And they offer great financial support for our young students. But even when you look beyond that, the universities themselves offer scholarships,
Yes.
which is great. The opportunity to connect with religious organizations to see what opportunities are there in the way of scholarships. And whatever a student's personal passion is, if they Google it and put their passion and a university and scholarship together, you'd be, it's amazing to see what kind of scholarship dollars are supportive of a student's passion. But I know students and their families, when they're, at the kitchen table and thinking about college and which colleges to apply to and how to afford this very expensive adventure, uh, the frustrating thing may be, and what we hear from NSHSS parents is when a student doesn't know what they want to study, and a parent is thinking, well, if I'm investing $30,000 a year into my child's education and they're not sure what they want to study, that creates sometimes some friction. But what I want to encourage you and our listeners to think about is, that's part of the journey, not knowing. And from our members, which are honor students, about 65% don't know what they want to study. They don't know what they want to do. And even those that feel like they know what they want to do, a lot of times change their major. So it's okay not to know. It's okay to explore. It's okay to get into an institution and try different subjects and understand what you like about some and dislike about others. So that ability to say, I don't know and I'm not sure is a healthy thing. So I want to encourage the students and parents to think more broadly about being uncertain and going into an environment that is safe to explore and understand what's available, not just sort of limit it or concern themselves of how can we afford it. That tends to work themselves out. And my daughter, I can tell you, I've got three wonderful children. My daughter, came to me and said she wanted to major in dance, and she was going to the College of Charleston. And I was thinking, gosh, a dance major, what is she going to do with dance? But
Yeah.
she danced her whole life. And I encouraged her to think about doing a dual major, one in business administration and one at dance, because she had a vision of owning her own dance studio. So it made sense to her to get a business degree. And I'm so proud of her. I went to the graduation ceremony 4 years later and walked into the College of Business, and there was her picture along with some of her achievements. And she was the top business student.
Wow.
Yes, yes. And, today she's working for a huge, well-known law firm in HR.
Wow.
So, from a young student who wanted to study dance to go through that process of understanding who she is and what opportunities could become available, now she has a wonderful career and, I've got three wonderful children. My older has a master's degree, an MBA. My youngest son, tell you a little bit about him. He came to me and said, "Dad, I want to be an anthropology major." And the same thing, I'm thinking, what is he going to do, Angelica, with a degree in anthropology? Um, and I've learned from that experience, even as the co-founder of NSHSS. You've got to let your young students dream and do what they have in their heart. Um, and he loved anthropology, and of course, it's the study of history and different cultures and different backgrounds. And he grew up in that through our family. So he saw the work that I have done and continue to do. And he was really encouraged by studying sort of the history of anthropology and the history of mankind and how different cultures react. And, he's got a wonderful job. He's one of the managers for ADP. It's and from an anthropology degree to now, a manager for a great organization. So it all works out. And when you think about some of the liberal arts majors, it really provides students an opportunity to be critical thinkers.
Yeah.
It's something that parents may not understand the value of some of these majors, but like in my case, the critical thinking that a student can understand and evolve in an educational environment is so important as they go into their careers. If we all can be better critical thinkers and understand perspectives and solutions and all those things that make for a healthy person that can contribute not only to their careers, but to their family life.
Yes. And I actually minored in
There
anthropology.
you go.
So I
Yeah.
say everybody should take an anthropology class.
Yes.
Because it really does teach you a lot about people. And that's probably that probably set them up for success in that role. Because
Absolutely.
yeah, you
Absolutely.
relate to people differently when you learn more about how to kind of separate your own experiences and be able to resonate with someone else's. So that's really, really cool to hear
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I'm proud of them, and I have 6 grandchildren, so, looking forward to, understanding their passions and encouraging them to be the best version of themselves and, make an impact on their local communities and, think globally at the same time. So, you know, education is so important, and when Klaus and I founded NSHSS, we really felt like we wanted to create an organization that was family-like. And bringing together not only students, but their moms and dads in an organization to say, hey, you are doing great. Keep up the fabulous work. And encouraging the family unit to talk at the kitchen table, to understand the challenges. And today, when you think about the challenges with social media and social anxiety and depression and anxiety, all those changes that you had mentioned, some of the differences between when we started it in 2002 and today, those are some of the issues that are facing young people. And to be able to be in a shared community of being able to reach out. We do webinars at least twice a week within NSHSS on a variety of topics.
We have so many webinars from our partners who just want to engage with students. And then also through us, where we're teaching our members more about NSHSS and then also some of the things that we offer as far as like leadership programs. We have a great ambassador program for high schoolers. We have a collegiate council for college students. So we have so many resources, but webinars is definitely a big part of that.
Yeah. And, we started that during COVID because historically we did a lot work in person. So our events, we held them around the country. And even this year, when I look back, if I, forget some of them, but UCLA, we had a member event, UC Berkeley, University of Michigan, Texas A&M, John Hopkins, and our last one is in Stockholm, Sweden every year, and it's around Nobel Week, where we have students and family members have an opportunity to spend a week and have the Nobel experience, which is really outstanding. But only so many families and members can come to these events based upon budgets and time commitments. So the webinars really took off during COVID. The
Yeah.
opportunity to encourage students and their families to listen into a topic that they may be interested in learning more of, and providing those kind of resources to families. And also, when you look at some of the challenges within a high school community, where a counselor may be working with 3 or 4 or 1,000 students, they may not have the ability to really connect on a particular topic, given the limited resources that a high school or a high school counselor has. So we love the work that the counselors are doing, but this is also an add-on to those students and families that want to tune in to a particular topic that may be of interest to them.
Yes. And I think it's a great virtual space just to connect with one another. So I highly encourage coming to events. And if you can't come to events, come to webinars or both,
Yes,
really. So given the rapid societal changes, global challenges, and evolving educational landscapes, how do you see the original mission of NSHSS adapting to stay relevant to students? And if parents and educators are listening,
sure.
yeah,
I think we do that through the flexibility of the webinars, because topics now are different than topics 20 years ago. And, when I think about working with Mr. Nobel, when I first met him in the year 2000, it was a new millennium. So to say, wow, it's the year 2000, time has gone by so quickly.
yes,
And when I met Klaus, he was 70, and I worked with him until he was 91. So he worked, together with us and great staff and volunteers for all those years. And it's interesting that I'm 70 now. So I'm the same age as when I met Mr. Nobel and had the privilege of working with him. But he had all so much energy. You would never imagine that he was that that old, because when he'd come to an event and meet the students, he was so enthusiastic about hearing from them and hearing their stories, shaking their hands, getting their picture taken with him. He loved it, and he was always the last person out of the room. He would stay to the very end and meet and greet as many people as possible. And he was talking about, earth ethics to the students from the stage. And what do we need to do to save the world? And things have changed so drastically, when you think about, in the last 25 years, when you talk about the struggles that we have as a planet and how we need to really focus on, the community of human beings. How do we make it safer and saner for this next generation? How do we really develop character as a human? How do we interact with other people from around the world? And when you think about changes like with AI,
yes,
a lot of students are focusing on, some of them are very happy about AI, some of them are uncertain about AI. How will that impact majors in college and career choices? So we're going to see a lot of changes in that arena, and young students need to be prepared, and they're usually very flexible about adapting to their environments and seeing what may be needed. But there's going to be a rapid change at the university level and in a career setting on how we can adapt to this new AI. We need to think, how do you develop an AI system for the betterment of human beings and the planet? So it can't be a race in a situation where we're trying to dominate as an American or another country that may have great AI. But this future that's unfolding, the youth needs to be prepared of, how do we come together? How do we figure this AI out to make not only health issues better, but to make the planet better? And through NSHSS and connecting young scholars, our focus is to bring people together, to encourage them to talk to each other, encourage them to be friends with each other. Because if you're a friend to a student from another country or another high school or another state, you're more likely to understand who they are and their backgrounds and their experiences. And if they can come together with a better understanding and develop friendships, the world's going to be a better place.
yes. And it's not going to come from us, it's coming from the younger generations who are uh, having new ideas, and they're all fresh ideas. And I think that that's something important to focus in on, because we can explore options that we already know, but what is it that we don't know?
No,
And what are
absolutely.
some new ideas?
And
So,
we've got to have new ideas. I agree with
yeah.
you 100% because the older generation, which I'm a part of, we screwed a lot of things up and we continue to make mistakes. And, when we raise the question of AI and how that's going to impact the world, we have to have a balance from young people to determine how do we structure it in a way that's going to benefit mankind. So, the unity of bringing together different countries for the betterment of not only their own civilization, but the humankind. So it's a higher calling. So it's my hope that, young people, NSHSS members, and other young scholars from around the world will think about the future and how can we create an environment where the earth is safe, there's peace. When you think about John Lennon's, song from back in the day, imagine all the people. Um, it can happen, but we need to make it happen now.
Yes. Great callback to earlier in this interview. So we need to all listen to that song. Now it's stuck in my head.
It's one of my favorites.
Okay, so let's go on to the last question. So if you could leave our listeners with um, one thing, whether that be our students, parents, or educators who are supporting the students, with one message about the importance of community and connection through an organization like NSHSS, what would it be?
Sort of last thought. I would encourage students to listen to and talk to your parent because the parents have such wisdom and experience. And if the parents did not have the opportunity to go to college, look beyond your parents, but look at others, mentors, and other in your community that can help guide you. And organizations like NSHSS can help provide a spirit of achievement. How do you get that education? So, from a perspective of students listening to the parents because of their wisdom and other mentors, that will help them achieve their dreams. So for students not to be isolated, but to be open for dialogue with their parents. But also, Angelica, I want to say parents, listen to your students
Mm,
because, like in my case, young students have a dream of what they want to do. My daughter who wanted to own a dance studio, I listened to her. I understood her passion. I said, well, that's great. And you should do it. And she has that double major, but now she's working in HR for a very worldwide law firm. So you need to listen to their passions and you need to understand their concerns so that open dialogue between students and parents and students is one that, I want to encourage all students, not just NSHSS members, to be more open to. And I know it's tough in trying times and financial difficulties but, if parents can be better listeners and if students can be better listeners, I think they'll be able to achieve their dreams.
absolutely. Such great advice. Thank you so much for joining us for this meaningful conversation with NSHSS co-founder Jim Lewis. Hearing the story behind this organization reminds us why community recognition and the opportunity matters so much, especially for young people discovering who they are and who they want to become. If you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow the NSHSS Scholars Connect podcast wherever you listen so you never miss an episode. We've got more inspiring student stories, expert insights, and conversations that help you navigate college, career, and life with confidence. You can learn more about NSHSS and exploring upcoming events, scholarships, and resources at nshss.org. Thank you again for listening. Until next time, keep standing out, keep stepping up, and keep taking action. Today's episode was brought to you by the National Society of High School Scholars. The intro and outro music was produced by NSHSS student ambassador Sage Leggett.